Hey guys, it's Karin Tanaka. I'm here with the Academy of Scoring Arts. So last Sunday on August 16th, we had our first shortlist event, our 2-hour composing event. And I am here with Tim Corpus. Hello.
Hello.
For joining me. He is the first place winner of last Sunday's event. And unfortunately, we didn't have time for him to unmute himself and give a little background on himself and dive into his composition a little bit more. So here we are. We wanted to circle back. So thanks for being with us, Tim.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun to take part.
Good. I'm glad to hear. So before we dive into your piece, can you just give a little bit of musical background on yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So I've got a bachelor's of percussion performance and a master's of composition. So most of my career has been spent in the classical realm, a lot of kind of contemporary classical work. And then I was also the executive director of a regional symphony orchestra for a few years. So I've kind of done everything on and off stage.
Fantastic.
Maintained some composing as well.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us for our first shortlist. It was a lot of fun, and let's dive into your piece. If maybe you could play it through once, and then you can dive into the little nuances.
So I think a good place to begin would be the sample.
Okay.
And do you want to hear the original sample? Have people heard it?
Yes, let's hear the original if you have it available.
So this is the low bell. And it goes forever.
It does go forever.
Which, in a 40-second piece, I thought a great place to put it would kind of be to divide it up.
Okay.
And what I was feeling from the imagery, which let's pull this up here.
I do like how you interpreted the image. We picked this one specifically because people can go take it a lot of different directions, but I like the creepy direction that you took it.
Yeah, well, in seeing that, hearing that bell and seeing that image, there's a lot of blues, a lot of purples in the image.
Yes.
So I didn't feel that it needed to be very shimmery, very bright. I was thinking kind of high pass filters over everything. Mm-hmm. And so with that gong, what I did was I just have an oscillating, we'll go ahead and solo this out and then show this is the filter. So it's just a simple EQ that's just oscillating. Gives kind of a nice kind of, that feeling of right before you fall asleep. That's what I was really going for. And then I did drop the pitch a little bit, mostly because I needed this to end within a certain amount of time. So I took two versions of the sample, reversed it. So one starting just after the beginning. That way it wasn't covered up by the timpani hit at the beginning, right down here. And then after that, it repeats kind of in reverse with that filter building back up.
Cool.
Yeah, it was the first thing, we had really short amount of time to work with, and that was the first thing I thought of. So there were a couple other things I wanted to do with it, but I didn't have the time. So I just did that like really simple filter. And then the next place I went was adding in the motive.
Yeah.
Which I decided to do that with a harp. And to make it a little bit more full, I added a sixth above it. So
I like that treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes it a little bit creepier too.
It does. And your composition was one of the only ones that harmonized the motif too, so I like that.
Yeah, and one of the things that I did with it, it's it's not the plucking of, I mean, it's a harmonic pluck of the harp. So I use the motive again later on, but to also make this a little bit more foreign, I put the kind of the harmony, it's just E and G, it's just a minor triad.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm using the cello and the bass for that. So I'll bring those in here. Hear those over that. And yeah, like you and I were discussing.
Very threatening sound.
Sorry?
It's a very threatening sound.
Yeah, and there's so much unknown in that image.
Mm-hmm.
There's a mask. There's no person under the mask.
Exactly.
So I thought kind of an unresolved harmony was a good way to go, and not giving you, a full triad so you know exactly where you're at, major, minor. And with the Liszt motive, it's very easy for that to go any direction.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly another reason why we picked that motif too.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting because some people did take it major, which was really just interesting to see how they did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So which ingredient to you was the hardest to work with?
The hardest to work with, I think, was the motive.
Okay.
Yeah, in trying to make that interesting. Some people transposed it and used it as part of a melody, which I thought was really genius. And I just didn't stumble upon that in time. So I was just taking it really for what it was, those notes.
Yeah.
And I think the best way I came up to treat that in the end, there's a great plugin by Ivy Studios. It's called Claire Soprano.
Okay.
It's just some oohs, ahs, but she sounds great. And being that it's Nicole Kidman laying there, I thought a nice kind of female voice.
It does correspond with her laying there. Okay. I was going to ask you about the voice in your composition. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Well, and it's a really, really simple sound. But it works really good. And she's not exactly in tune either. Right. And that kind of just adds to the badness of the feel of it.
Yeah. It's like a little bit more raw.
Yeah.
That's very cool. That's a cool effect.
And then I also have a synthesizer that's just helping with the harmony underneath. And that is just an E. That's also awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the kind of throwback sound that the synth gives. Because, this film, or the image that the film was pulled from, is not very modern.
Sure.
So yeah, I like that throwback sound a lot.
Thanks. Yeah, I did that. That was one of the first things right after I did the bell. I added that in so that something could match it because I didn't want it to be too dissonant between the two.
Right. Right.
But yeah, I didn't think too much electronics would sound good for this.
Yeah. So is this something that you do quite regularly? Are you under a lot of deadlines and do you need to produce a lot of music quickly?
Yeah, actually the week before I had to do an 8-minute documentary, music for a...
Oh, that's right, you mentioned that.
And I had 24 hours to do it.
Okay, okay. That happens a lot. That's why we wanted to provide this kind of platform for people to practice and kind of review their own their own processes and see where the holes are and see where they can improve. And that was the complete idea behind this whole thing. And I love what you came up with in 2 hours. And I was just wondering if you would do anything different if you had a little bit more time.
Yeah, well, the treatment of the strings is really difficult. We discussed this actually that Sunday. It's really difficult to get strings to sound good.
It is.
And so I use the strings. I think, it's in the viola and the cello because the viola sample I have is relatively good compared to the violins, I think.
Okay. Which viola sample are you using?
So these are Cinestrings.
Okay.
And it's just the Cinestrings core, which they are a great full orchestra sound if you're going for, that kind of John Williams feel. Not as neat when you want something a little bit lighter like this. So actually all the creepy cello stuff is Spitfire audio. Some of it are labs.
Okay.
But yeah, I would have done a little bit more work with the strings. There's definitely some velocities and expressions that are off. But yeah, when you have only a little bit of time, you kind of just do what you can. The other thing I had considered doing was piano and kind of treating it as kind of more Baroque. But I think this captured the sparseness of it all.
Okay, it did. It did. Do you have any tips for people out there trying to make deadlines and write quickly?
Yeah, I think spending time on templates is time well spent. I always work with markers, and I often will spend an evening just, making new templates, inserting new audio VSTs, plugins, and getting it all set for the next time I need it.
Yeah.
So this was, I think, 2 different templates that I imported right away. So when I started, I knew I wanted strings, so I imported those.
Okay.
So yeah, I definitely think, those days when you're feeling like you're not creative, spend time just perfecting your DAW.
Absolutely. That's some really good advice. Tim, thank you so much. I'm glad we got a chance to kind of circle back, dig deeper into your composition, and thanks for chatting with us.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to hearing next Sunday.
Awesome.